welcome to Next Best Picture's YouTube channel. I am Matt Neglia, the owner, editor-in-chief of nextbestpicture.com, and I'm being joined right now by Daniel Howat. Daniel, how are you today, first of all?
Man, I'm good. I am good. Things have been a little crazy, a little busy, but excited to look ahead to future contenders from this year.
Yeah. I mean, we just wrapped up an entire Oscar season, and now we have our eyes set on the future. And when we say that, of course, people will think, an Oscar season just ended. Why are you jumping into another one right away like this? No. We're not going to go through predictions here, category by category. Think of this more as these are films that we are looking forward to for a multitude of different reasons. But one of the things is that we think that these have Oscar potential tied to them. Now, that could mean best picture potential. That could mean best visual effects potential. There's a large crop of films to get through here. So I don't want to waste anybody's time necessarily. I want to start off, of course, with some heavy hitters, some big ones. And I think when we talk about this, you know, there's obviously the one that everyone's seen. And that's Dune Part Two. So that's not so much looking ahead, but that is our first real Oscar contender of the year, obviously. And then I would say beyond that, we've then got film festival titles that have premiered elsewhere that people have already seen. Now, I think you and I are very aligned on this. I think A24 has got something very special with Sing Sing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to start with. I mean, we both saw that at TIFF last year. For me, this is the first time where I think my favorite movie of the year of 2024, I will have stayed my favorite from beginning to end since before January until the very end. It's really hard for me to imagine anything beating that. It's just so good. But can it be a contender is a big question. I think it can. It's certainly good enough in my opinion. It's just kind of if A24 plays its cards right, kind of like a past lives. I think they can do it.
I think they could do it too. I mean, you got Coleman Domingo hot off of his nomination for Rustin. He could
And
very easily come over with it.
He's
Yeah,
way better in Sing Sing than he was in Rustin, honestly.
and then you also have supporting performances, the screenplay. There's a couple of different routes that this could take. It's a very small film, but it is
Hmm.
definitely the one that I would say from the film festival side of things is probably, I don't want to say a sure thing for Best Picture
Yeah.
because it is a small movie after all, but definitely one that everyone should keep their eye out for. And then beyond that, I would say also too, The Outrun, starring Saoirse Ronan. I think she'll be in contention for Best Actress this year, either between this or Blitz, depending on is she lead, is she supporting in that
Mm.
film. We don't really know if also too how much of a two-hander it is between her and Harris Dickinson. Where with The Outrun, we know that she is that movie. Like her
Hmm.
performance defines what that movie is. And a lot of times when you're looking at the lead categories, that's kind of the performance that you're searching for more often than not.
Yeah, but what's going to sink that? I mean, you saw that one, right? So you
Yeah.
tell me. It got kind of mixed reviews. Everybody was praising Saoirse,
Hmm.
but saying that the movie is kind of like just whatever.
It is. I mean, like some people really love it. Don't get me wrong, but that's like, oh, like let's wait and see how the field turns out. Like her performance is so, I think, uh impressionable, and memorable in that regard that I think it will definitely linger for certain voters, especially those who have gone through what she's going through as an alcoholic in this movie. If they know somebody or they themselves have gone through such experiences, I definitely think that will strike a chord with some folks. But I also, I mentioned Blitz a second ago. Now, I know that there are other fall film festival titles and stuff from Sundance, like, A Real Pain and some documentaries and things like that. But, when you think about like 2024 award season contenders, it like the top of everyone's list is Blitz, directed
Hmm.
by Steve McQueen. This is pretty much the what? Like what would you say? The Killers of the Flower Moon of this year, right? And of
Yeah,
course it's Apple.
is it the Killers of the Flower Moon or is it the Oppenheimer of this year? Both, there's a case to be made for both. Either it is going to go all the way and pick up some Oscars and really crush it, or be a really solid contender but not really win much. Either way, it's got all the right things on paper. Steve
Mhm.
McQueen hasn't really been back in the Oscar race since 12 Years a Slave. I mean,
Mhm.
Widows tried. So this really has all the goods. I mean, Harris Dickinson's he's been rising and rising. It's just a matter of time before he gets recognized. So why not for this?
I agree with you on that. Speaking of someone that's on the rise, there's a lot of actors this year that I'm looking at them and I'm like, ooh, like they're rising up to where this could result in a first time nomination for some of these people. One of them I have my eye on pretty closely is Sebastian Stan.
Mm.
Now I know from Sundance everyone's thinking that it could be for A Different Man, which I don't want to rule that out as a possibility. I actually think Adam Pearce in supporting is more likely push for that film, along with its makeup. But really, for Sebastian Stan, the one to really watch out for, depending on how it goes, because believe me, this could be a disaster, is The Apprentice, where he is playing Donald Trump.
Yeah, and Jeremy Strong is playing Roy Cohn. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. This strikes me though as the Academy loved Vice and they loved what else? The Big Short and Bombshell, and this does feel in the same vein, at least on paper. We don't know how it's going to turn out. So this kind of feels like the movie that Twitter is going to hate,
Mm-hmm.
that audiences might enjoy, but that the Academy just eats up. I'm not looking forward to seeing a Donald Trump movie, to be honest. I don't think, especially this fall, I don't think is going to be the right time. But who knows? It could happen. It could happen.
That's one thing that's scaring me with this film is the release date coinciding with the election. I between Civil War, Joker 2, and this, I'm just not ready for all the discourse this year. But in all honesty, I would say the thing that has me optimistic is the director of this film, Ali Abbasi, who previously did Border and Holy Spider. That's the one element that has me thinking, okay, maybe this isn't going to be like those other movies that you mentioned, and this might be something a little different. I've also heard that it is eyeing a fall film festival run potentially, might even go to Cannes. I don't know yet, but bottom line is they seem to have enough confidence in this to think that it can go that route as opposed to being like a straight to theaters commercial play. So that tells me something too.
Yeah, totally. He is not a director that is in the vein of Adam McKay or Jay Roach, who did those other movies. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, you're right, Stan. He's got potential. He's a phenomenal actor, and Jeremy Strong,
Yeah.
obviously. So we'll see what it turns out to be.
And maybe returning Oscar nominee Maria Bakalova playing Ivana Trump.
Could be, could happen.
Could be. Uh, I mentioned Joker 2 or Joker Folie à Deux. This is a very interesting year. I remember
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, I believe it was, we were talking a lot about sequels and getting into Best Picture. And I remember, based upon everything that went into that particular season, we were wondering, is it going to be Black Panther? Is it going to be Glass Onion? It turned out to be Top Gun Maverick in the end. Now got it, and Avatar Way of
And
Water, of
Avatar, yeah,
course. But now this year, we've got Joker 2 or Joker Folie à Deux, Furiosa Mad Max Saga. We already talked about Dune Part 2, which I think is actually like I don't even think that's up for debate. I think that's already got a best picture slot on lock if I'm being honest with
yeah.
you.
I'm with you.
And then beyond that, what's the other sequel? I know there's one more.
Gladiator 2.
Got one. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
my feeling on all of these, Dune 2, I'm with you. I think Dune 2 is safe for a picture nomination and plenty of other nominations. So that aside, I'm super hesitant to bet on any of these movies above the line. I think all of them will get nominations below the line. I think
sure.
that feels pretty safe for all three, for Joker, Furiosa, and Gladiator 2.
Until we
But
see it and we,
fair,
like, because I hear you. I think Mad Max, most of all, probably has the hardest hurdle to climb here because the love for Fury Road is so large
yeah.
that I just I do think, based upon especially the latest trailer, that this is going to be technically marvelous and it's going to be a lot of fun. Chris Hemsworth looks like he's having a ball in it, but it might have that same feeling of been there, done that. What's new and
It's true.
different that we have to recognize this again. Um,
That's my hesitation with all three. Is
mm,
that I think
the only
I
one I'm
think
pushing, the only one I'm pushing back on with that is Joker because
you
that's
think
the
that can
one that
break
I,
through, huh?
well, just in the sense of like that's the one that feels like it's going to be most radically different than the
Yeah.
film that we saw before. And that newness, that freshness or injection of gaga-ness, if you will, might be enough to sway over some, people who didn't like the first one, but maybe now all of a sudden they like this.
Yeah, and it's going to be presumably in the comedy and musical categories at the Globes, so it's going to have a push there. Yeah, I think all three of those movies are going to get nominations, even if reviews are bad for
Hmm.
any of those three. I think they're going
Napoleon
to get
proved
some.
that this year,
Exactly right. Like
for
Gladiator 2
Gladiator.
is kind of locked in for like 3 to 4 nominations, regardless of quality. It's just a matter of picture, all those things. I can't bet on any of these three. I just don't see the Academy dipping back in for any of those three. But they're certainly, they're certainly contenders to keep our eyes on.
Do you think that there's a world where the Academy turns around and says, "Okay, Joaquin Phoenix, we got you with Joker," and now he pulls like a Leonardo DiCaprio campaign strategy, like for Killers of the Flower Moon with Lily Gladstone, where he is all about pushing Gaga, and he decides to like kind of take a step back, and then this whole campaign becomes about nominating and getting Gaga an Oscar.
Well, yeah, with the exclusion of pushing Gaga, I think he's just gonna be gone. he hates campaigning anyway. So if he's already got his Oscar, of course they're not going to give him an Oscar again for Joker. So might as well just take a step back, relax, don't campaign.
But they might be
Whereas
able to get him
Gaga,
out to prop her up, is what I'm saying. Though maybe not
it
for
could be.
himself, but he
Could
might
be,
be
and
willing
we
to
know
do that.
Gaga's a relentless campaigner.
Mhm.
I don't mean that as an insult, but she is all about campaigning, and
Yeah.
so it's easy to imagine her being everywhere. So if the quality matches her ethic, it's possible she makes it in.
Yeah. The other sequels here that I'm not like looking at so much for Best Picture, but I am looking at them for nominations are Inside Out 2 for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say Twisters is something that I could see popping up in things like sound, visual effects. I actually have a very, very, very small feeling that that movie could surprise and maybe make an even stronger play, depending. But I say this only because Lee Isaac Chung is directing it. I mean,
Exactly.
it that's so. Every time I watch the trailer for this, I'm always expecting to see like Alan Kim like running around in the fields with the Twister.
Dude, I'm
Um,
so in for Twisters. I hope this movie is good. I still can't believe Lee Isaac Chung is directing it. Like that is so wild to me. I'm
yeah,
so incredibly in. I hope it's a contender. Best Picture winner. We're in.
let's do it. What do you make of Wicked? Honestly, part one,
Um,
might I add?
yeah, it's a part one. I don't know, dude. I love John Chu. In the Heights was robbed of awards attention. I'm just kind of not feeling it. I
Mhm.
live in a Wicked household. My wife is a diehard fan, so if she watches this, she's gonna crucify me. But I just don't. I'm not feeling it. I think maybe a costume nomination, visual effects nomination, production design.
Yeah,
Maybe it shows up in a category, but I'm nervous about the quality, dude. But it is going to be, I think, regardless of quality, it's going to be a pretty solid box office hit. So you never know what that can do for it.
sure. Some other big titles here. I have my eye a lot on Focus Features because obviously they always are in contention with something pretty much every year. And this year, they've got two titles that are jumping out at me for different reasons. One of them is Conclave, which is the new film from Edward Berger, who did All Quiet on the Western Front. And this is starring Ray Fiennes as a cardinal who is tasked with choosing the new pope to succeed the one that just recently passed. John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, Isabella Rossellini are starring in it. Uh, I think, from what I've heard, this is supposed to be like a thriller, but
Yeah.
you know, there's a part of me that wonders, could this be Ray Fiennes' time finally?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then my next question then becomes, is this, because here's the thing, all respect in the world to Blitz, I just don't want to put it in my number one default slot a year out. And so I'm looking for something else to kind of put in there right now. And so Conclave has just kind of by default become that film for me.
Dude, I'm with
Um,
you. I'm with you. As
yeah,
soon as I read through this, I was like, "Oh, that could be something." That could be something. Berger came so incredibly close. It's wild in hindsight that he didn't get a director nomination. It's always a question. The follow ups to like that first Oscar success, are the follow
Hmm.
ups gonna bring you right back? But I think Berger can do it. I think Conclave sounds special.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Is Horizon an American Saga going to be enough to bring back Kevin Costner, who hasn't been nominated since Dances with Wolves, which he won for? I really don't know what to make of this, because whereas Wicked and its release strategy of releasing both films a year apart, I can understand that. But what Horizon is doing is it's releasing part one in June and part two in August. And then so when we get to award season, are we nominating both films together? Are we like, how is this going to be campaigned and positioned?
Yeah, I mean they're two separate movies. As far as the Academy is concerned, they're two separate
Right.
movies. So, I don't think awards is top of mind when it comes to this release strategy.
Hmm.
I think I said this on an earlier episode of the show. I am so on board for doing something unique to get people back to theaters. So like I really support this. I hope the movies are good. I hope they do great box office.
Hmm.
Will they do great box office? Will they be good? I'm less confident, but I want to support it. But I don't have expectations for awards. That's for sure.
One thing I feel like I could confidently pencil in as a contender is Maria, for Best Actress for Angelina Jolie. Pablo Larraín with his other two famous women films with
Mhm.
Jackie and Spencer. Each of their leading ladies got nominated.
Yeah, what are we
So
calling this trilogy? Is this like the Tortured Women trilogy? Or is this like
I
I don't
think
know
it's
what
like
we're calling this?
maybe the depressed famous women trilogy. You
Something
have
like
to
that.
add that, they're famous in there
Right, right.
somewhere.
We gotta we'll workshop the title, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie might as well be a lock for an actress nomination. I don't see why not. And then yeah, it's just a matter of above the line categories.
Hmm.
Jackie and Spencer didn't really get anything else. So
No.
I don't know. I kind of feel like the Academy will warm up to them for Maria. I think this has maybe more above the line potential because she's slightly less famous than Jackie or Princess Di. So
Hmm.
I think it could get there, but it's a toss up.
Going back to my thing about focus features, and then also kind of continuing this trend I'm on here about directors who are like on the cusp of being recognized, I really believe that Robert Eggers with Nosferatu, I'm not saying that he's going to get nominated for director here, okay? I'm just like, I'm not going that far yet. But I do think that this is the first of his movies outside of the cinematography nomination for The Lighthouse that could be more broadly recognized in things like production design, costumes, makeup, sound. There's a lot of potential here, I think.
Yeah, I am very excited for the movie. I think it's going to be so good. I think it's a perfect pairing of director and material, and the cast is incredible. So I agree with you. Tech and craft nominations, absolutely. Outside of that, I'm not so sure. But I do think back to like The Northman. I think if The Northman had released in the fall, it would have scored more any nominations. It would have scored some craft nominations.
Hmm.
So I think you're right. Like his films are on the cusp. He's doing all the right things. Um, but will the Academy go for a Nosferatu movie? That's where I'm more hesitant. But I'm so down. I'm very very excited for Nosferatu. And then Focus also has Diti, which came out at Sundance and
Hmm.
South by Southwest. And that movie is one of my favorites of the year.
Hmm.
It's it's clearly not like an across the board contender, but it's more like a original screenplay if they play their cards right.
Supporting actress,
Maybe
maybe too.
supporting actress. They have an original song for Motion City soundtrack, which I just found out, even though I watched the movie months ago. So original song. But yeah, that's another one that I'm rooting for. Love that movie.
Yeah, I have a feeling that movie, I don't think it's going to break through in a major way. I think it's going to be almost like the way something like mid 90s or eighth grade, where
Yeah,
they get respect and they do well, but then it's like come awards time, just doesn't crossover, but we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, focus is behind it after all. They're usually able to make things happen. We have Mother Mary, which is from David Lowery, who is somebody who I feel like is so close and is always on the
Mm-hmm.
cusp of coming out with something that is gonna land with the Academy, but for some reason it just always seems to miss the mark a little bit here. This is one where I think, you got Michaela Cole, Anne Hathaway, Hunter Schafer. It's possible. I'm not saying it's like, definitely going to happen. And it could also just be another one of his titles that is so peculiar that it just doesn't vibe with voters, but it has been described as this like epic melodrama. I mean, that sounds baity, right?
Depending, I mean, melodrama that could be, oh my gosh, what was May December? It could be like May
Sure.
December where it's a little too melodramatic for the
Yeah.
Academy, which I mean got a screenplay nomination, so there you
Hmm.
go. Yeah, I mean I respect David Lowery's career so much. The way he does his own thing, and he
Hmm.
gets money. Like he just vacillates between these two things. Oscillates. That's what I'm trying to say. Oscillates between these two things, and so Mother Mary, I'm so down. It sounds pretty incredible. And Michaela Cole is another person who with the right project, I could see her totally breaking through with the Academy.
Sure. John Crowley, who previously gave us Brooklyn a couple of years ago, he's got We Live in a Time with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Two previous nominees here, both looking for their first win. John Crowley has not been nominated for director, but that's like one of those things where it's like on paper, I feel like that could be a thing, but then again, I feel like every year we always see these pairings of actors in these films from directors who have a little bit of clout, but they just, it sounds more like a come and go film more than a big contender.
That's where I'm at. I can't get myself just because we know everything you said is all we know about the movie. Like we know
Yeah.
nothing else. And so until we know more or see more, I can't bet on it. Because it could be like Foe from last year. I mean, at least we
Right.
knew that the book was acclaimed.
Hmm.
This we don't even have that. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield easily could get Oscar attention if it's good.
Now, Luca Guadagnino has two films coming out this year. I want to be very clear up front. I don't think Challengers is a contender. I really don't.
It
Some
looks
people are
good.
saying, so, yeah, some people are saying it could be because of Zendaya. I get that. I understand. I'll wait for the official reviews, but the fact that this thing was going to premiere at Venice out of competition kind of already tells me, I think, everything I need to know regarding that. But he does have another film called Queer, which is starring Daniel Craig, who you want to talk about somebody looking for their first nomination. This is, I think, something that on paper feels like to me, it almost feels like if this is not it for Daniel Craig, then I mean, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities, don't get me wrong, but it just feels like this sort of has the potential to be the one for him.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% behind it. I think, we've seen that Guadagnino can make Academy friendly movies when he wants to.
Mm,
Bones and All was never gonna be that.
no.
Suspiria was never gonna be that. But maybe this is it. This sounds Academy friendly. I haven't read the book it's based on, but it sounds up their alley. It's got a cast that certainly could be there. So yeah, I really think this could be it. It's got a good release date. I can't remember what studio's behind it off the top of my head, but yeah, I think this definitely has potential.
So another one was called Flint Strong, has now been retitled to The Fire Inside, which somebody get Diane Warren on the phone.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't. That's news to me. I didn't know that was retitled.
Oh, yep, just got announced the other day.
Wow.
It's very odd. But this is written by Barry Jenkins, screenplay by him, directed by Rachel Morrison, and is starring Judy Greer, Brian Tyree Henry, Ryan Destiny. I think that this is also another one where okay, I the name change does have me a little worried. But then again, I think I'm only saying that because no, I'm saying that for another reason too. This has an August release date before the fall film festivals. That's the other thing I'm nervous about here.
This has been a really troubled production. They
Hmm.
were gonna film it back in 2019, and then they got dropped, and then there were like COVID delays. The cast has changed over multiple times. Like everything about it kind of screams this isn't going to work out, you know? Like and I'm
Yeah.
sorry for Rachel Morrison, you know, she's obviously extraordinarily talented. I'm excited to see what she can do as a director. Barry Jenkins is great, but it just sounds like this is kind of cobbled together and limping
Mhm.
across the finish line instead of you know, being something to really be excited about.
Well, I'll tell you a film that somebody's really excited about. Barry Keoghan must have been really, really excited about Andrea Arnold's latest film to drop his role in Gladiator 2. That alone has to tell me that there must be something going on here with this movie. He's also starring alongside Franz Rogowski, who we saw last year in oh god, now I'm drawing a blank on what was the name of that movie.
Passages.
Thank you, Passages. Thank you. And Andrea Arnold, you know, she hasn't been like the Academy's cup of tea.
She's an Oscar
I
winner, but for short
Yeah,
film. So, you know, yeah.
but this may not be an Oscar thing either. This could just be an opportunity for Barry to stretch his wings as an actor, and he wants to work with Andrea Arnold, and maybe he saw the writing on the wall with what was going on with Gladiator 2. I have no idea. But you know, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at. You know, if it's good, I think Andrea Arnold could come back to the Oscars, but none of her features have gotten any attention from them.
Mhm.
So, you know, I'm gonna not bet on it until proven otherwise.
Another title that we've had on our radar now for quite some time, I believe we've been predicting this movie for 2 years now, is The Actor, starring
Mm.
Andre Holland, who is another one where I know we're all like actively rooting to see him get recognized at some point, and this is the one that I think that stands the best chance for him. It is a crime drama set in the 1950s in New York. It stars Andre Holland as someone who loses his memory after a violent beating in a mysterious small town. And I am just really excited to see Andre Holland show us more of what he can do. I mean, I think a lot of us are very aware, especially for those of us who saw him like in Exhibiting Forgiveness at Sundance and various other titles over the years. But I just don't feel like he's had like a breakout role for mainstream audiences in a way that has made him a viable star. You know?
Yeah, this is one of those projects for me that you just kind of have a feeling about, and you're like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna keep my eye on this one. I really think that this could be a big contender. Whenever we're this far out, it's so hard to tell what's gonna actually get nominated because you know this year we had like four of the titles were from directors who have never been in awards contention or
Sure.
new directors. That happens every year where half of the best picture nominees are that way.
Hmm.
So it's hard to predict those this far out. But this is one of those. Duke Johnson did Anomalisa with Charlie Kaufman.
Hmm.
So he's been around, but this is his live action debut. It just sounds really intriguing. Andre Holland's great. I'm into it. I'm into it. I really have a feeling about this one.
Juror number two, Clint Eastwood.
I really don't have a feeling about this one.
Meanwhile, I actually do have a feeling about this one.
Really,
I do.
really.
Yes, I actually think this could be a return for Clint. I
Okay,
genuinely think so.
okay.
I think Nicholas Holt is going to have a pretty big year this year between this, Nosferatu, heading into Superman, of course. I think he's going to just. I genuinely get the feeling that this could be Nicholas Holt's year. And with that, I just think Clint Eastwood, we're due. We're due for something decent from the man. Okay. And because he doesn't have his track record is one that he doesn't have misses like that often. So I
Yeah,
want to believe,
but to be
yeah,
fair, how do I say this kindly?
he's
Uh,
93.
Yeah. I mean, like that doesn't mean he has to make bad movies, but he's been making so many bad movies in a
I
row
know. I
that
know.
it's just kind of like maybe the fire's gone. I don't know.
I actually thought Richard Jewell was fine, all things
It was fine.
considered.
It was fine.
Yeah. But I get your point. I know everyone has this on their radar for various reasons, and I get it, but at the same time, I'm like so skeptical, and that's Yorgos Lanthimos's already follow up to Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness. This is an
Yeah.
anthology film. That right there tells me everything I need to know, which is that the Academy just doesn't go for anthology films for Best Picture typically. But it, I well, here's the thing. this is not a Yorgos Lanthimos film scripted by Tony McNamara. This is Yorgos Lanthimos scripting it with his fellow screenwriter who collaborated with him on things like Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster. So
Which
this is,
resulted in a nomination, Oscar nomination. So
yes, but like let's be clear, this is definitely going to be darker, weirder Yorgos, not Academy friendly Yorgos. I think.
yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm definitely skeptical, especially with the June release date. That's that's so soon, so recent. But when I was putting the article together to write about these films, I was like, I can't bet against Yorgos at this point. Like I just can't
And,
not put him
and
in there.
and that's the one thing that I'm also looking at too here, which is that maybe they are just so accustomed to him now that even if this stuff is beyond weird and out there, they just might not care now. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my thing. I mean, I am not the biggest Yorgos like diehard fan. I like his films plenty, so it's not like I'm dying on the hill of this movie. But it's a contender until it's not. It's kind of one of those where it's like
Hmm.
it has to be seen as a contender until we get eyes on it.
Yeah. Another title that I feel like, it could go either way in terms of it being a contender, but I'm going to lean more towards not just due to the output of this director's other films. Sean Baker's Honora is one that, I think a lot of people want to see Sean Baker in the mix. Red Rocket, I don't think it came close for Simon Rex, but I would like to believe it did, even though I know it didn't. Florida Project, I think a lot of people would agree, should have been nominated for more than just Willem Dafoe. And so, you know, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I'm
I've
still
seen a
keeping
lot
an
of
eye on it.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people like rank this really highly in their
Mm.
early predictions, and I don't
I would
get it.
love to know
Look,
what they know.
exactly. Like you're not going to find a bigger Florida Project defender than me. That was my I think my favorite movie of that year. I mean, it should have been nominated across the board. But other than that, I mean, his films are just so not just not Academy friendly, they're like anti Academy. Like they're like the Academy will hate these movies more than appreciate them, which is fine. That's not an insult to the movies, but it's just not what they go for. So
Yeah.
it's again, unless we see it and it just totally proves me wrong, I just cannot get behind this as a real contender.
This is actually the first year in a while where I'm looking at Netflix's slate and it doesn't look that intimidating on paper, which leads me to believe that they're going to have to pick up some stuff, maybe from Cannes or from Venice or something. But they do have the piano lesson, and the
Mm-hmm.
piano lesson is directed by Denzel Washington's son, Malcolm Washington, who's making his directorial debut. Then you've got his other son, John David Washington, also starring in the movie alongside Samuel L. Jackson, Ray Fisher, Daniel Deadweiler. So, I look at this on paper and I say to myself, okay, Fences, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, they were able to get acting nominations. They were able to get screenplay nominations. Oh, no, wait, Ma Rainey did
I don't
not
think it got a
get the
screenplay
screenplay
nomination. Yeah.
nomination, correct? But it got nominations outside of just acting too. So, this leads me to believe that, for Netflix being behind this and considering the reviews that the play recently garnered as well, starring John David Washington and Samuel L. Jackson, that we have to put this in as a contender.
Oh, absolutely. I do think this is a pretty strong contender. The Academy, like you said, really went for the other August Wilson adaptations. And
Hmm.
so I don't see why they wouldn't go for this one. An unproven director, Malcolm Washington. I don't believe he's directed a feature before, unless I'm
No.
mistaken. So I think it still has a lot going for it. A lot of people are wondering if this is Samuel L. Jackson's year. I mean, he won a Tony for this role. So, it's totally believable to see him picking up a supporting actor win. Like he's got the career, he's already got the honorary Academy Award, and he's got the career that could totally take him to a win without too much effort, if the role is good.
I've seen a lot of people putting him in their predictions like a year out at number one for this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
for good reason. I can completely understand it. Oh, and he was nominated for the Tony. He didn't win the Tony.
Oh, he didn't. Okay, my bad. My bad.
Yeah, it's all good. The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat, not directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. This is a film that is starring Uzo Aduba, Anjanou Ellis Taylor. There we go.
Yeah, and
Huh.
actually, it's not directed by Gina. She wrote it. She co-wrote it.
Oh,
So it's a
okay.
it's a debut director, Tina Mabry. So untested director, but that's okay. But my biggest fear for this film is that I think it's going to get swallowed up. It's a Searchlight movie that I think is going to get swallowed up by Hulu. That's kind of
That's
my
their
worry at
thing
the moment.
nowadays, isn't
It
it?
is.
Yeah.
So I might be wrong. If it doesn't
Huh.
get swallowed up by Hulu, then maybe it's a bigger deal than I'm giving it credit for. But yeah,
Sure.
Uzo Aduba and Anjanou Ellis, I think they could totally garner some attention.
Well, Anjanou Ellis also has the Nickel Boys coming out this year too. And this is one that I know we've been eagerly anticipating now for once again like the last 2 years. This is an Amazon MGM release, so there's always a fear that this might also go straight to streaming as well. I hope not, because it is directed by the director of Hale County this evening. I'm gonna get this right, Ramel Ross.
Yeah, Ramel
I
Ross.
think that's
Yep,
correct. Yep.
yep.
So I just alone based on like the plot synopsis and everything that I've heard about it, and plus Anjuna Ellis Taylor is just such a captivating on-screen presence. This is another one that I would say, like, let's keep an eye on this, and see where this one goes.
If there's one, I wrote our year out predictions weeks ago now. If there's one change I would make to it right now, I
Mm-hmm.
totally underestimated the Nickel Boys. Like the more I think about the Nickel Boys, that really could be a big contender. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
got a lot going in its favor. So yeah, I really am highly anticipating that one.
And then I'm going to end on what I think is the biggest swing, the biggest potential to fail, but if it hits, it's going to hit huge. And that's Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
I was wondering when we were getting to this one.
Oh man, I here's the thing with this movie for me. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I'm also kind of dreading it too on the chance that like cuz knowing what the poor guy has put into this, knowing it could potentially be the last thing he does in his illustrious career, man, it would hurt. Like it would hurt if this movie was not good and it got like destroyed by critics. And that's kind of like the reason why I feel like it's not going to get destroyed by critics. My guess is critics are going to be kind to it even if it isn't great. And at worst it's going to probably get like some mixed reviews. But the way that like Ferrari kind of got like mixed reviews
I was
and
gonna say
landed
exactly the same thing.
with a bit of a shrug. My guess is this is not going to be a shrug movie where everyone just like moves on and forgets about it. I think it's either going to, like I said, succeed big or fail big. And it's just going to be one of those things where I don't know, man. Like I can't see this going any other way. Like I can't see it as being like a middle of the road. Oh, it was fine. Like, and then people just forget about it movie. I just can't see that happening.
Man, I can. That's where I'm at. I think he's been making this movie or talking about it and dreaming about it for almost 50 years.
Mhm.
And I just think it's one of those too big to fail, so it's gonna fail big movies. I really think I think you're right. I think there are gonna be a certain amount of critics, like the people. I think Ferrari is such a great comparison for Megalopolis in my mind, at least unsight unseen.
Mhm.
That it's a really respected, beloved director who a lot of people are going to root for. A lot of I don't mean this derogatory, like a lot of film bros are really going to like clamor for and say no, let's look deeper and analyze this, and it's really good. No, for real, believe me, it's really good. But so
But
you'll
but
have a
then
lot
that
of that.
But my question then is this: does that mean it's Ferrari or is it Bardo?
Oh, I mean, yeah, both of those could be great comparisons. But I'm leaning towards right now in my head. I think it's not going to be an epic disaster. I think it's just going to kind of like it's going to come and go,
I can't
and
see
and
that.
after
I think it's
50
too big for
years,
that.
I don't
This
know.
is a
I don't
hundred
know.
million dollar movie, dude. Like this is gonna. He's planning to release this thing in IMAX in the fall.
Yeah,
Like I'm telling you, I don't think there's any world where this thing releases at a festival gets bad reviews and then just like kind of goes away. I really think this is the kind of thing where this is going to be a talking point throughout the rest of the year, whether people want it to be or not.
I mean, that's kind of what Ferrari was. We had people
I
predicting Ferrari
suppose,
to get
yeah.
sound.
Hmm.
Penelope Cruz was in the conversation. I kind of feel like it's going to be like that. Like, oh, is it going to get a cinematography nomination or not? Even though
Hmm.
despite the bad reviews, I think it'll be sort of that. But I don't predict it for any Oscars this far out. But look, I'd be
But
more than
how it
happy to be
how it
wrong.
what if it doesn't get bad reviews and this is like Killers of the Flower Moon, where it's just like
Also
this epic
possible.
masterwork from this director in like the twilight years of their career in life, like just giving us like this masterpiece. I like,
It's
man,
possible.
I want it for him so badly.
Yeah.
I
And that's
really
the thing. If
do.
it does get even like just pretty solid, pretty decent reviews, I could
Mhm.
imagine the Academy really going for it as a show of like, hey, this is a person who's directed some of the best movies ever made, and
Yeah.
he's back, finally getting good reviews again. And
Mhm.
so let's at least have him in the conversation again. I could totally see that happening.
I think that's the thing that I I think that's the thing I keep coming back to here with this though is when I look at his filmography since I'll be kind and say since Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It's rough. Yeah, it's brutal. It's
Rough to
not
be
good.
kind. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I was told the other day, I was talking with Josh Palmer about this. He was telling me I really need to rewatch Tetro, which I will
I never
gladly
even
do.
seen. Never even seen.
Yeah, no, I saw it back when it like came out, so it's been a long time. Twixt, I hated Twixt so
Yeah.
much. I thought Twixt was awful. And Jack is a movie that I remember I saw when I was young, and I didn't know back then that it was bad. And then I watched it later on, and I was like, "Oh, this is bad." Especially when it's like you see some of these movies and you think to yourself, "This is from the guy who did these films back in like the '70s that are like
Yeah.
some of the most iconic movies ever made. How does this happen?" So I think people are looking at he's willing to risk $100 million of his own money on this movie. It's his dream project, like you were saying. He's been talking about it for years. It's got some great names attached
Mhm.
to it, like really, really big names. There's a part of me that thinks that this has to be because that's the other thing too. I know it's been many years since Twixt, but I don't think that all these people would have just signed on the pedigree of his work from
You
that
don't
many
think?
years.
I
I
do. I 100% think that.
You think so? Yeah.
Yes. It's $100 million movie with Francis Ford Coppola behind it. Say no more. I'm signing on. Quality of the script be damned. I mean,
I don't know, man, because I look at like the people who signed on for Twixt and Tetro and Youth Without Youth, and it's like then like their names are nowhere near as stacked as what's listed here.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right, but he also didn't have money for those movies. This one, he put up a ton of money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Look, and this is also, by the way, going to ignite Shia LaBeouf,
Oh yeah, that's true.
drama as well. So that's going to be fun.
Unless if A, he has a small part in it that it's negligible and nobody cares, or B, it's a Terrence Malick situation and he goes to premiere and he finds out he's not even in it.
I think he's a main role. I think he's a pretty big role. So from what I understand, who knows? But
We'll see.
this is a good time to plug. Y'all need to
Mm.
read The Path to Paradise, which is all about Francis Ford Coppola's like filmmaking journey. It just came out last year.
Oh,
Great
cool.
book. And it really talks a lot about how he's been trying to make Megalopolis all these years. It's a
Mm.
fascinating read. It's really good. I kind of wish it hadn't come out until after the movie to factor in how the movie does. But anyway, it's a really good book for sure.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to mention?
Only one that I kind of feel decent about this
Hmm.
far out, which is Long Day's Journey into Night. It's an adaptation of the play that's been around for decades and decades. It's been made into who was it? I think was it Hepburn?
Oh
Uh,
God, we're talking about the original.
Yeah, who got married? I mean, who got nominated for this years ago? Regardless, it's yeah, Hepburn. Hepburn scored a Best Actress nomination for it years ago. So it's got Ed Harris, Jessica Lange. Ed Harris is one of those guys that, with the right role, he could totally steamroll to a win. So that's one I'm definitely keeping my eyes on. I think that's the only one we hadn't really mentioned that I kind of have a feeling about.
Okay, I've got a couple more here, but I'm gonna go through them fast. Beetlejuice, makeup, visual effects,
Sure,
costumes. Yeah, man, come on.
sure, sure.
Yeah, especially considering that they've said that they are harkening back to practical effects more
That's
so for
true.
this one.
Fair enough.
I remain optimistic here. Black Box Diaries is one of the best documentaries I saw at Sundance. Keep an eye out for that one. I know
Nice.
everyone is going to say Will and Harper, Evelyn, and what was the other popular? Oh, the Christopher Reeves
Mm,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that everyone is going to immediately go to and say like that's the still, like that's the American Symphony, like that. Those are the popular ones. But Black Box Diaries is the one you all should really watch out for, I think.
Good to know. Good to know.
Beyond that, Civil War is being talked up for its sound. I will say more in a couple of days when I see it for myself.
Nice.
um, what was another one here? Amelia Perez. I think, it's international submission,
Yeah.
if anything, but we'll see.
I assume that's going to be a can premiere, but I'm not sure.
Fancy Dance, starring Lily Gladstone, hot off her nomination for Killers of the Flower Moon. That might give this a boost, actually. And I've heard from various people, even throughout this season, they were saying that she's better in this than she was in Killers. So I'll keep my eye on that for
Okay.
her to maybe return 2 years in a row. You never know.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about Robert Zemeckis' latest film here? Because okay, like
Come
listen, I'm
on.
not saying
Come on.
I understand. I'm saying more for like just visual effects.
For visual effects, also come on. No, it's gonna be on the short list and it's not gonna get nominated. It's gonna be terrible. Look, again, it's like Robert Zemeckis, even more so than Francis Ford Coppola. Look, he's made some phenomenal movies, but it's just not there anymore. It's not there. I can't see it being a real contender.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes visual effects nomination.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited for that movie. That looks great. Yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely,
agree.
definitely. Were the other ones nominated? Weren't they like
All three,
weirdly snubbed? Oh, they were.
all
Okay,
three,
okay.
and but none of them won.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, there's also
Going.
the wild robot. It looks like a really great animated contender. That
That's
trailer,
actually my that's currently my animated choice over Inside Out at the moment.
yeah, it looks phenomenal. I have no idea what the story is. The trailer's giving us nothing about story,
Yeah,
but the animation, it looks amazing. So
I
I'm
agree.
really really excited for that one.
Mufasa the Lion King. I'm okay. Once
Visual
again, here,
effects.
yeah, and also
Yeah.
too, just hear me out. I have to believe that with Barry Jenkins tied to this, that this has to be something. you know,
I hope. I look. I also wouldn't begrudge Barry for getting some money. Get that cash. Go make your dream project. So I don't begrudge him if that's the case. But yeah, visual effects or bust is what I'm gonna say for that one.
Hitman adapted screenplay contender.
Maybe. I love the movie. I love it. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's phenomenal. When I was watching it, I didn't really get awards vibes from it at all. So but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. I freaking love the movie.
I think if the field is weak, I think it's possible. They like
Sure.
Linklater.
Yeah.
His Three Daughters screenplay.
Same thing. I think that's one that people are gonna think is gonna be a big contender. Did you see that? End up seeing that one at TIFF?
I did.
I think people are gonna try to make Natasha Lyonne happen, which she's
Mm-hmm.
incredible in the
Yeah.
movie. It just feels very. It's kind of weird, It's very contained. It doesn't feel Academy friendly to me, despite
Yeah.
again my love for the movie. I love the film and was bowled over by it, but I really don't think it's going to get attention. Especially, isn't it going to Netflix?
Yes.
So it's that screams Netflix burying it. Like I that is going to drown on Netflix.
I have to mention the end because I think that Joshua Oppenheimer, coming off
Mm.
of The Act of Killing and The Look of Silence, I have this feeling that he could be our Jonathan Glazer with a Zone of Interest type of film this year, where I really do think if this thing say it premieres, it can say it gets the kind of reviews that, like I said, like a Zone of Interest received. That's a path that I could see, especially considering It's got Neon distributing.
Mm-hmm.
What if Neon wins the Palm again? I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's possible. I think you're right. I think it's got a lot of the right cards.
It would just immediately like catapult it right into the conversation right then and there. Um, you knew I was going to bring this up at some point. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim for
Yeah,
animated feature. Come on.
animated feature, I think it's possible. I really do. I think I'm covering CinemaCon in a couple weeks, and I
Hmm.
anticipate Warner Brothers showcasing some of that. So I'm really curious what it looks like. Are they going to be phoning in the animation to have this be kind of a cash grab, or is this going to be really a good film? So
I
I think
think
it could totally happen.
I think it's going to be one of those cases where I think it has such low expectations, and my gut instinct tells me that this is going to exceed a lot of people's expectation.
Totally, I'm down.
So,
I'm down.
Ron Howard has a new film. I don't know at this point with Ron Howard if we should take that seriously or not, but there's a lot of names attached to this. Anna de Armas, Jude Law, Vanessa Kirby, Daniel Bruhl, Sydney Sweeney. It's called Eden. And all we know is that it's about a group of people who abandon society and civilization in order to travel to the Galapagos Islands and find the meaning of life.
Yeah, Howard's one of those you got to consider it, but
Yeah.
until you see it, you don't really know. I'm not sure. Did they? I'm not sure if they completed filming on that one or not. I think I didn't include that because it might not come out in time. I'm not positive.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? That might be the case. Maybe it is something for next year. Then in that
Could
case,
be.
my last thing I will mention here before we go, because who would I be if I did not mention Night Bitch?
Wow, completely forgot about it. That's been on this list for like 3 years in a row. Yeah, but we know that's going to Hulu, right? Isn't that confirmed to be a Hulu film?
I believe
I think it is. And
I
so,
think
well, look,
so.
now they pulled some sort of voodoo to get The Fire Inside nominated, despite that being a Hulu only film. So,
Hmm.
maybe if Amy Adams is good in it, and I love Marielle Heller, so
Yeah,
maybe it'll happen.
it would be so weird to go from Diary of a Teenage Girl, Can You Ever Forgive Me, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, these multi-worded titles that were all critically acclaimed, to the singular, blunt, in your face, Night Bitch. What a title.
And Amy
God,
Adams hasn't been around. I mean, what was the last thing she was in? I can't. Was it Ron Howard's? Was it Hillbilly Elegy? I can't remember what else I've seen her in.
I know. Wasn't she also in Dear Evan Hansen?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. She's
Um,
I think she's struggling between that and Oh, Woman in the Window. Oh my
oh
God.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh, and Howard, she was in Disenchanted,
Oh
which,
boy. Oh man. Yeah, I forgot
yeah,
about that. That was just last year, I think, wasn't it?
Howard,
Oh
we
wow.
we we just like forgot that movie even existed.
I forgot her whole filmography for the past like 3 years. Yikes.
Uh,
Yeah.
we need a comeback.
Yeah. You know what screams comeback more than Night Bitch?
Clara and the Sun, maybe.
Yeah. Remind me what that one is. I can't remember.
Taika Waititi. I mean,
Okay.
maybe this isn't the answer.
It could be.
It's got Jenna Ortega, Amy Adams, Natasha Lyonne in it. I don't remember exactly what it's about. I just know it's the new Taika Waititi film. It may not even come out this year. So,
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, we'll keep our
well,
eyes on it.
in any event, do you have anything else to add before we go?
No, no, big crop of movies. I mean, that's the caveat that you have to say every year is these lists always skew to filmmakers we know.
Yeah,
So later on in festivals, what we all hope happens is so many movies that weren't even on our radar pop up, and they're the big contenders. Maybe even our best picture winner that we don't even know the name of it right now.
we
So
didn't even know that Anatomy of a Fall existed this time last year.
exactly, none of the Cannes titles, like certainly none of the non-English language titles. So yeah, I think there's so much we're missing here. But you never know. I mean, Oppenheimer, we knew this far out.
True.
So you really never know what's going to happen.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being with me here for this discussion. I hope that our listeners got something out of it and they're looking forward to some of these movies. And we will see you all soon. You're going to CinemaCon, like you were saying before. So hopefully we'll get some more updates, maybe a surprise or two for something that, like you said, we don't know if this is coming out this year, and then you find out it is. all of a sudden, instant contender, right?
Exactly.
Wasn't like the creator of that for you last year?
I was just gonna say, the creator, they dropped the trailer like with no fanfare, no nothing. They just kind of plopped it on the CinemaCon audience, and there was an audible like gasps in the room. Now, obviously, a little underwhelming reception when the movie actually came out, but hey, Oscar nominee. So
yep,
you never know. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to CinemaCon.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us here, and I'll talk to you later, man.